The morning after the court situation ended, I woke up with a strange feeling that something was still moving, not anxiety. Not fear. It was that quiet awareness you develop after being targeted. Long enough, the moment you realize someone lost officially. But hasn't accepted it emotionally. At first, everything looked normal. Same coffee. Same commute. Same building. But the changes were there, subtle, almost invisible, and only noticeable if you've been there before. The security guard at the front desk greeted me like always, but his smile lingered half a second too long. A coworker who usually made small talk just nodded and kept walking. A manager passed by and broke eye contact at the last moment. Nothing accusatory. Nothing direct. Just caution. That's when it clicked. The story didn't die in court. It changed locations. Inside the elevator, someone cleared their throat behind me. So, everything okay? They asked. The tone wasn't concern. It was assessment. Yeah, I said calmly. All good. The doors opened. We walked out in silence. When I sat down at my desk, there was already an email waiting. Not an accusation. Not a formal notice. Something worse. A vague invitation to an informal conversation with HR. No subject line. No urgency. No explanation. I didn't feel angry. I didn't feel surprise. I felt confirmed. She couldn't control the narrative where she tried first. So she moved it somewhere quieter where doubt does more damage than accusations. In professional environments, people don't attack. They check in. They express concern. They ask questions that don't need answers. That's how reputations start to erode, not through facts, but through uncertainty. I kept working. Didn't reply to the email right away. Didn't ask anyone what was going on. A few hours later, my phone vibrated. A short text from an unknown number. Hey, just wanted to check in. Heard some things. You okay? No name. No details. Just enough to let me know the narrative was spreading. I didn't reply. I learned a long time ago that when people circulate doubt, explanations only feed it. At lunch, I chose to eat alone, not out of isolation, but intention. As I sat there, I thought about how predictable this was. She always used the same strategy. Never direct confrontation. Never ownership. Just planting the idea and letting others finish the sentence. I'm worried about him. He's under a lot of stress. After everything that happened, people should be careful. None of it is an outright lie. It's something more refined. Outsource fear. When I returned to my desk, I opened the HR email for the first time. Read it carefully. Closed it. Then I did something no one expected. I didn't defend myself. I didn't react emotionally. I didn't ask for clarification. I opened a blank document. Title: Incident Log. Date. Time. Objective description. Informal HR request without agenda. Message from unidentified external number. Noticeable shift in workplace behavior. No opinions. No assumptions. Just facts. Around mid-afternoon, my team manager stopped by. Quick question, he said, clearly uncomfortable. Everything okay on your end? I kept my voice steady. Yes, why do you ask? He hesitated. No reason. Just checking. I nodded. Appreciate it. That was all. When he walked away. The pattern was undeniable now. She wasn't talking to me anymore. She was talking about me. And it would only work if I played along. I didn't. At the end of the day, I finally replied to HR. One sentence. Happy to talk. Please include the agenda and any documentation related to this request. Polite, professional, unassailable. Minutes later, their response came back. The tone had shifted. Now there was structure. Now there was caution, because when people realize you're documenting, the story starts to lose momentum. As I left the building, the sky was already dark. I didn't feel victorious. I felt clear she was trying to isolate me. But she missed something fundamental. In the workplace, consistency matters more than stories. And I had something she never did. Time, records, and strategic silence. They might still whisper. They might still laugh quietly, but I already knew how this chapter would end. Not with my explanation. With the natural exposure of someone who keeps pushing, and I wouldn't need to say a word. The HR meeting was scheduled for Thursday, 3 days after the first email. 3 days where nothing else happened openly. And that's how I knew it was working. When people start watching you quietly, they stop creating new noise. They wait to see if you'll collapse on your own. On Thursday morning, I dressed the same way I always did. Not sharper. Not softer. Consistency is a language. I walked into the HR office exactly on time, not early. Not late. The room was neutral. Glass walls, muted colors, a round table meant to suggest balance and fairness. 2 people were already seated. 1 HR manager, 1 legal advisor. That alone told me everything. This was no longer informal. They smiled politely. "Thank you for coming," the HR manager said. "Of course," I replied. She folded her hands. "We wanted to check in given some recent information." There it was, not an accusation. Not a claim, information. I didn't interrupt. I didn't nod. I waited. She continued carefully.
There have been concerns raised about your well-being.
"We're not here to judge. We just want to make sure everything is okay." Concern again? That word had been following me for weeks. I met her eyes calmly. "I appreciate the check-in. Could you clarify what concerns were raised and by whom?" Silence. Not long, but noticeable. The legal advisor shifted slightly in his chair. "Well, the HR manager said some of it is external. We don't have specific allegations. More context." Context. That's the professional version of gossip. I leaned back slightly and kept my voice even. "I understand. For clarity, are there any documented complaints, performance issues, or formal reports related to me?" She glanced at her screen. "No, not." I nodded once. "Then I'd like this meeting documented as informational only," I said. "And I'd appreciate a written summary of what was discussed." That was the moment the dynamic changed. Because now the concern was no longer floating. It was being anchored. The HR manager smiled again. But the smile was tighter now. "Of course," she said. The legal advisor spoke for the first time. "Just to be clear," he said, "this is not disciplinary." "I understand," I replied. "I'd like that included in the summary as well." He nodded. The meeting ended shortly after. No accusations. No warnings. No conclusions. But I knew what had really happened. She had tried to inject fear into my professional environment. And instead, she had triggered a paper trail. By the afternoon, the whispers started to shift. A colleague stopped by my desk. "Hey," she said quietly. "I just wanted to say, people talk, but your work speaks for itself." I thanked her, not emotionally. Not defensively. Just neutrally. Another coworker sent a short message later that day. "HR asked if I'd noticed anything off about you." I told them no. I didn't reply. I archived the message. Because the story was starting to crack. When narratives rely on suggestion, they collapse the moment consistency enters the room. That evening, I received a call from a number I recognized. My sister. I let it ring. Then she texted, "I heard you had a meeting, see? People are paying attention now." There it was, the tell. She knew, which meant she had started it. I added the message to the log. Title. External interference, workplace, because that's what it was now. She wasn't just spreading concern. She was tracking its impact. The next morning, HR sent the summary. Short. Professional. Meeting held to check in. No allegations raised. No action required. Employee cooperative and composed. Composed. That word mattered more than they realized, because it contradicted everything she was trying to sell. Later that day, something unexpected happened. A senior manager asked me to step into his office. Not HR. Not legal. Leadership. He closed the door and spoke plainly. "I won't ask you for details," he said, "but I want you to know something." I waited. "When people bring personal narratives into professional spaces," he continued, "we look at patterns, not emotions." Patterns. The same word my lawyer used. He met my eyes. "Your pattern is solid. That's all that matters here." I thanked him and left. That was the moment I knew she had miscalculated. Because she assumed reputation was fragile. She didn't understand that credibility is cumulative. It doesn't shatter from whispers. It erodes only when behavior changes, and mine hadn't that weekend. She escalated again. A vague post online. Funny how people hide behind professionalism. No names. But everyone who knew I didn't react. On Monday, something else shifted. People stopped asking, stopped checking, stopped whispering. The story lost oxygen. because without reaction, concern becomes boring. Fear without payoff dies quickly. By Wednesday, HR closed the loop. No follow-ups. No additional meetings. Just silence. And silence this time wasn't pressure. It was defeat. That night, I wrote one final note in the log. Attempt to influence professional environment unsuccessful. Narrative collapsed under consistency. I closed the document not because it was over forever, but because this chapter was done. She had tried law. She had tried family. She had tried public opinion. Now she had tried my livelihood. And failed. Quiet revenge doesn't look like destruction. It looks like standing still while someone exhausts themselves trying to move you. And in the end, the only thing left for them to face is their own reflection. The shift didn't happen loudly. It happened the way real shifts always do, quietly. All at once. It started with a meeting I wasn't invited to. A calendar slot appeared on my manager's schedule. HR plus legal minus 15-minute. No agenda visible. No notes. Just a block of time that didn't include me. In the past, that would have triggered a spiral. What did they say? What are they deciding? What do I need to explain? But I wasn't that version of me anymore. I didn't chase it. I kept working. Same pace, same tone, same output. Because if someone is trying to paint you as unstable, the most powerful thing you can do is remain unremarkable, not passive. Unshakable. Later that afternoon, my manager walked over and stood by my desk a little longer than usual. He didn't look uncomfortable now. He looked settled. Hey, he said. Quick update. I turned my chair slightly. Sure. He lowered his voice, not to hide, but to keep it professional. We reviewed what HR brought up, he said. There's nothing actionable here. Nothing actionable. A clean phrase. A corporate eraser. He continued, if anything else comes up, we'll handle it through HR. But for now, focus on your work. I nodded once. Understood. He didn't leave immediately. There was a pause. The kind people use when they want to say something human but aren't sure how. Then he said, you've been consistent. That matters. And he walked away. That's when I felt it, not victory. Gravity. Because consistent is the one word that kills gossip. Gossip lives on. Fluctuation, emotion, reaction, consistency. Starves a. By the next morning, the office felt normal again. Not warm. Just neutral. The sideways glances had stopped. The careful tones had loosened. People had found something else to talk about because that's what they always do when a story stops. Paying off. Then my sister tried one last push. She didn't call. She didn't text. She sent a message through someone else. My aunt. A woman who always spoke in soft sentences that carried sharp expectations. She wrote, honey, I'm worried about you. Your sister says you've been acting strange. Can we talk? I stared at it for a moment and felt the old reflex try to rise, explain, clarify, correct the record, but explaining to family had never corrected anything. It only gave them more material. So I replied with the same kind of language that had been protecting me all season. I'm safe. I'm handling private matters privately. I appreciate your concern. No details. No defense. No opening. 2 minutes later, my phone rang. I didn't pick up. Then another message came in, not from my aunt, from my sister. Short, sharp, barely disguised. So you're really doing this? You're letting people think I'm the problem? There it was. Not concerned. Image. I didn't respond. She sent another. Everyone sees what you're doing. You're making me look crazy. Crazy. That word again. The moment consequences touch them, they try to shove the label back onto themselves, as if it proves their innocence. Then she sent the line that told me she'd lost control of the room. HR knows. Your manager knows. You can't hide forever. I almost smiled because she still didn't understand what had happened. I wasn't hiding. I had been visible the entire time. Visible, stable, consistent. And that's why her plan failed. I took screenshots, added them to the log. And then I did something I hadn't done before. I wrote one final email to HR, not emotional. Not urgent. Just a clean follow-up that strengthened the frame. Following our prior check-in, I've received additional external messages referencing my workplace. I'm documenting this as continued external interference. No action requested at this time. No action requested. That phrase matters. Dotted signals stability, dotted signals control, dotted signals you're not panicking, you're tracking. And if she ever tried again, HR would already see it as a pattern, not an incident. That evening. She posted again, not directly about me, not even a full story, just a vague line. Designed to trigger sympathy. Some people weaponize professionalism to avoid accountability. No name. But it didn't matter, because the comments were different this time, less eager, less intense. A couple people asked what she meant, a couple wrote, hope you're okay, and then nothing. No outrage, no momentum, no chorus, the algorithm didn't care. And without a crowd, her performance collapsed into a whisper. She messaged me later that night, a final attempt, softened tone, familiar bait. Can we just talk like adults? This is ridiculous. Adults. That word is always used as a trap. It means, come back into a private room where I can rewrite what happened. I didn't answer. I left it unread. Because silence in the wrong hands is control. But silence in the right hands is a boundary. The next morning, I walked into work and something happened that I didn't expect. A coworker I barely spoke to stopped me in the hallway. Hey, he said, just wanted to say, you seem fine. People were overreacting. I nodded. Thanks. He shrugged. Yeah, anyway. And kept walking. That's the real ending of a smear attempt. Not a dramatic public clearing of your name, just a quiet return to normal, because the lie only survives when people feel there's something to. Discover when there's nothing to. Discover when you don't perform for it, the lie becomes boring. And boring is death to manipulation. That afternoon, I checked my phone one last time. My sister had sent another message. Just 2 words. You win. I stared at it. Not because it felt good, because it revealed the truth. She'd been hiding behind concern this entire time. To her, it was never about safety. It was about a game, a scoreboard, a narrative, contest, and that's why she couldn't understand what I was doing. I wasn't playing to win. I was playing to end it. I didn't reply. I archived the message, and I wrote the final line in my incident log for Episode 14, Workplace Narrative Neutralized. Pattern documented. No reaction given. Influence attempt failed. Then I closed the file. Because this is what quiet revenge looks like when it matures. You don't scream. You don't expose. You don't beg to be understood. You show up the same. Day after day until the story dies from lack of oxygen. They laughed first. I stayed quiet. And this time, quiet didn't just protect my peace. It protected my name.